It's China's most stunning palace, the Forbidden City, the greatest wonder of the medieval world, and the biggest wooden structure on Earth.
It's the largest complex of palace buildings anywhere in the world.
Home to China's emperors, a place of staggering wealth and power, filled with dazzling treasures.
Only the emperor could pass along the central line.
It was closed to the outside world for centuries. Now our cameras have been given access behind the palace gates, and scientists set out to solve the enduring mysteries of this engineering marvel. How was this epic megastructure created? Who built it? And how has it survived 600 years of war, upheavals, and natural disaster?
Maybe we'll take one step back.
The secrets of the Forbidden City can finally be revealed. The Forbidden City is a wooden wonder, history's ultimate megastructure. Dominating the heart of Beijing, it boasts a staggering 900 buildings. Opened in 1420, it is a pleasure palace, an impregnable fortress, and a seat of immense power.
The most important site in the whole of Asia for the last 500 years. Economically important, politically important, and militarily important.
The main entry is the Wumen, or Meridian Gate, leading into the spectacular outer court with its 5 marble bridges that cross the man-made Golden River. The Forbidden City is 10 times the size of Versailles.
This is the largest palace complex in the world. And not just the largest palace complex that survives, but the largest palace complex built at any time in history.
Architectural historian Jonathan Dugdale wants to master its layout.
Up ahead is the Gate of Supreme Harmony. And if you think that's impressive, wait till you see what's on the other side.
3 great halls dominate the outer court, towering over a 3-tiered marble terrace. Beyond is the inner court, where the emperor lived. It all covers 178 acres, with the outer court to the south and the inner court to the north. Forbidden to any man but the emperor or his sons, with hundreds of structures, all surrounded by fortifications and a moat 50 meters wide. The Forbidden City originally contained 9,999 rooms, one less than the divine number of 10,000 reserved for heaven. It boasted scores of temples, gardens, and the emperor's vast harem, with thousands of concubines and an army of eunuch guards. A hotbed of decadence and betrayal. But above all, a center of power. But at its heart, there is a mystery. In a time before industrial technology, how did a medieval society produce such a marvel? No original plans or blueprints survive, so there is no record of how it was created. To find the answer, We've gone behind closed doors to its workshops and new research labs with special access to its scientists and master craftsmen to understand the palace and the medieval superpower who built it. The Ming Dynasty. From 1368, they ruled China for nearly 300 years. The Forbidden City is all the creation of one brilliant and terrifying Ming emperor, Yongle. Warrior, scholar, mass murderer.
The Yongle Emperor is one of the greatest emperors in Chinese history. Without him, China would be completely different. You simply would not have had a forbidden city that we see today.
But Yongle was never supposed to be emperor. In 1402, he took the throne by force. After waging a brutal civil war against his nephew, the Jian Wen Emperor.
It was a matter of life and death. He either rebelled and seized the throne, or he would have been eliminated himself.
Yongle stormed the first Ming capital, Nanjing, and left it in flames.
The Jian Wen Emperor disappeared. We do not know what happened to him, but bodies were found burnt beyond recognition.
Yongle burnt Nanjing and declared he would build a new northern capital, 1,000 kilometers away, Beijing.
Yongle was a driven man, an ambitious man, and he was ruthless. He eliminated tens of thousands of officials.
By building the Forbidden City at the heart of his new capital, the new emperor would create a dazzling display of power. His ambition is reflected in its sheer scale.
Without his vision of making this as a capital, China would simply not have the central role that it does in the modern world today. It's a vision of one man, but it's actually the genius of the entire Chinese people.
So vast, its construction even shaped the landscape itself.
This hill gives us an amazing aerial view of the Forbidden City. What's more incredible is that prior to the construction, this hill didn't even exist. It was actually built using the earth excavated from the moat.
Building on such an epic scale faced huge obstacles.
The environment and the climate was bad. They still suffered from floods and famines here and plagues of locusts. So all of this was an enormous undertaking.
All the labor and materials had to be brought to Beijing. Today, the fruits of that labor can be seen up close in structures such as Tai Miao Temple. It was first built in 1420 by Yongle to honor his ancestors. Yongle came to this spectacular temple to assert his connection with his predecessors in the Ming Dynasty. The importance of Tai Miao is reflected in its vast size and ornate decoration. The 13-meter-tall columns sparkle as if speckled with gold. It's a chance for master carpenter Richard Weiborg to see a rare Ming interior up close.
Look at this magnificent column, so round and so smooth. Imagine how big the tree was that this came from.
In fact, we have 68 columns in total for this hall, and they're supporting the structure. And they look beautiful as well.
This is a single log of a Nanmu tree, the rarest of all Chinese woods. It's straight, dense, and resistant to rot. But Nanmu can only be found deep in forests, over 1,800 kilometers from Beijing. And the sheer quantity of wood required is staggering. The latest high-tech laser scans show the Forbidden City's biggest hall contains thousands of timbers.
它有一个相当于把那个测量现场转移到了办公桌上这么一种效果。
The roof area alone is revealed as a forest of complex beams, joints, and trusses. Above, the huge roofs are covered with thousands of heavy glazed tiles and figurines.
This amazing edifice in front of us brings up a huge number of questions. How did they build it? Where did the resources come from to create something so vast?
To supply this vast building site, huge quantities of specialized materials were imported from across the whole empire. Over 100,000 Nanmu logs from 1,800 kilometers to the southwest. Golden floor tiles from 1,000 kilometers south. 80 million bricks, each weighing 24 kilograms. Gold leaf from Nanjing. And food for the 1 million workers and vast garrison. But to get everything to Beijing, Yongle's builders had to dream up another engineering marvel. China's Grand Canal.
The Grand Canal is both longer and older than the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal. They really solved a very large problem of canal engineering at the time.
Rebuilding a canal that runs over 1,700 kilometers. From commercial Hangzhou in the south, it then links China's lifeblood rivers, the Yangtze and the Yellow, right up to Beijing. The water flow is controlled from Nanwang.
Here we are at the center of the Nanwang Water Diversion Project as part of the Grand Canal system.
Here at Nanwang, a whole river was diverted to feed the canal. Today, it is dry, but this is what it would have looked like in Yongle's reign. But the hilly terrain blocked the canal, so engineers devised a vast system of locks. To raise the ships, the canal is fed from the one river, and 3 huge lakes were dug as storage tanks. Barges travel up the canal to Nanwang, where they enter a series of locks, over 5 kilometers long. The river water pours in to raise the ships in the lock, so they can then proceed. Huge sluices then empty the water into the specially made lakes, ready for the next vessels.
For just this section of the canal, there was 300,000 laborers conscripted, working for a period of 200 days constantly. And they created this with only the most rudimentary hand tools.
The Grand Canal allowed engineers to float the Nanmu logs north to Beijing. Along with a fleet of 20,000 barges, manned by the army to carry 420 million liters of grain to feed the Beijing building site every year. The cost was paid by Yongla's subjects in money, materials, and lives.
Tens of thousands of people starved to death. He worked convicts, he worked the military, he worked ordinary peasants. He squeezed as much as he could out of the taxes.
Their sacrifice was building a palace unrivaled anywhere on Earth. But what was going on behind the opulent walls of the Forbidden City? Beijing's Forbidden City Palace was built nearly 600 years ago for a man who stole the throne, Ming Emperor Yongle. A typical day in Yongle's life could cover much of his private city, the Danei, or Great Within.
This courtyard and the palace behind me is the most sacred location in the entire Forbidden City.
The Palace of Heavenly Purity.
And every morning he would rise at about 4 o'clock and he would come down this central pathway. Only he could pass along the central line for the dawn audience.
At dawn, thousands of eunuch mandarins would gather here in silence to kowtow before His Majesty. Filling the courtyard in front of the city's grandest structure, the Hall of Supreme Harmony.
In the very center is the throne. On either side, you can see dragons, and the dragons have 5 claws. That is the imperial dragon. Only the emperor could have 5-clawed dragons. And above, you have the symbol of the heavens. And the throne is directly underneath the heaven. Why? Because the emperor is the son of heaven.
Yongle must constantly prove he has the mandate of heaven and demonstrate he is worthy to rule by maintaining a careful balance in the cosmos through daily rituals and ceremonies. One of which was ensuring the safety of the palace.
The Yongle emperor would have come out from this gate here in his private quarters, walked down these steps, and probably if it was winter, he would have come to these great cauldrons, which are now brass but originally covered in gold leaf, and put his hand inside to make sure that there was no ice.
They must be full of water, as these are the Forbidden City's fire extinguishers. In a wooden palace, any spark can lead to disaster. But the Forbidden City is not only made from wood. Many of the key halls and palaces sit on layers of marble terracing. Huge blocks quarried over 60 kilometers outside Beijing. One of the city's most impressive features is Emperor Yongle's grand staircase, inlaid with dragons. Hand-carved from a single vast block of the finest marble, more than 16 meters long. It weighs over 300 tons, more than 125 Land Rovers. It's the largest stone sculpture in the Forbidden City, showing 9 dragons playing in the clouds. Just touching them led to a death penalty. But how was it transported from the quarry over 60 kilometers away? Scientists are investigating a new theory that might explain how it got from the quarry to the Forbidden City. Every winter, Beijing freezes over, and Ming court records describe the creation of great ice roads. Modern science suggests they may have moved the blocks on ice. Professor Rob Dwyer-Joyce is a tribologist, a friction and lubrication engineer. He wants to discover how many men would be needed to shift the marble.
What we have is a wooden sled. We've loaded it with stone weighing about a ton, 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds. And we're going to do an experiment to try to pull this along by hand on the ice. This is going to be quite difficult because it's... No, we can't get shifted. No, can't do it. I think we're going to need some help.
Even a whole ice hockey team struggled to get it moving.
Whoa!
So how much force does it take to start a 1-ton sled sliding across the ice? Remembering that the marble block of the Forbidden City's Grand Dragon Stairs weighs 300 tons. The challenge is to get it started. Ming sources say wells were dug along these ice roads. Could water help get it going?
I'm going to put some water down there and see how many we need when we've slightly wetted the ice. Go on, pull, guys.
The water acts as a lubricant, making the sled easier to start moving over the ice. This is exactly what happens with an ice skater's blade. The friction creates a very thin layer of water between the blade and the ice, allowing grace and movement. The Ming dug the wells every 500 meters to create the ice road and then lubricate it. Scaled up, our experiment proves just 180 men could move the 300-ton marble block. And it wasn't just the marble that had to be brought over great distances. What strikes visitors, along with the Forbidden City's sheer scale, is the vast array of colors. The turquoise, blues, and greens. Now new evidence is emerging of efforts made to source the very best materials. At the Hall of Mental Cultivation, Dr. Lay's restoration team are working to identify the precise pigments used to color the paints. Over the centuries, layer upon layer of paint has built up, making the task of identifying the minerals very difficult.
它这个匾额上面的颜料有脱落的情况，所以呢，我们首先要搞清楚它这个脱落的颜料的种类。
They're using the latest technology, a portable X-ray fluorescent spectrometer, to make some startling discoveries. At his lab, Dr. Lay combines the XRF scan data with the microscopic examination of paint fragments to identify the colorful elements.
中国这时候呢，蓝色颜料呢，一般主要用石青。
Shiqing is made by grinding down the mineral ore, azurite. But this doesn't look like azurite.
对，这个样品是很复杂。
这上面有一层颗粒比较小的颜料。
啊，那就是跟一个蓝色的细小的这个蓝色样品。
Dr. Lay's analysis identifies the compound.
它这个棱角很尖锐，就好像是那个。 经过人工研磨的样品，那么这个是应该是 smalt。
It's a remarkable find. This blue is smalt and only comes from Europe. Further analysis shows the pigments used to create the Paris green and ultramarine paints are also unique to Europe.
那么反映呢，更早的中国古代和东西方之间那个物质文化交流是一直持续的。
The analysis ensures the correct pigments are used in the restoration. but also proves that to decorate the Forbidden City, no expense was spared. In all, it took over 1 million laborers to build Yongle's Forbidden City, and over 100,000 skilled craftsmen and carpenters from across the empire to build a wooden structure unsurpassed in scale, even to this day. But once built, how did the palace survive nature's most devastating force? Earthquakes. In December 1420, Emperor Yongle's Forbidden City was complete. His vast palace was ready to face the world. Diplomats and dignitaries arrived for its grand opening ceremony.
They're overwhelmed by just the physical space. This statement of power, political power, the power of the dynasty, but also the power of the emperor.
Visiting ambassadors described 300,000 guests, 2,000 musicians and dancers, and as many armed guards.
This constant visual campaign of political persuasion that I am the most powerful man in the world.
Now it was complete. The Forbidden City became the beating heart of the Ming Dynasty, the place where the Emperor Yongle lived, and the headquarters from which he commanded his empire. But over the centuries, his palace has faced a series of man-made threats. Revolution, civil war, and invasion. But one of the greatest threats of all was natural disaster. Beijing sits in a very active seismic zone, with dangerous fault lines that spread over 1,000 kilometers.
地震的不可预见性以及频发性的话呢，对这些文化遗产构成了巨大的威胁。
Dr. Zhou is the Forbidden City's resident seismologist.
但是他们长期遭受地震灾害，积累了丰富的经验，所以他们在建造紫禁城的时候呢，采取了很多的抗震措施。
In its 600 years, the Forbidden City has withstood over 200 devastating quakes, including the deadliest earthquake of the 20th century. In 1976, centered around 150 kilometers east of the capital, it was magnitude 7.8. In just 15 seconds, it killed 250,000 people. Tangshan City was obliterated. So how has the Forbidden City survived so many quakes? To find the answer, specialist carpenters are building a unique scale model to replicate the classic Forbidden City structure. To be as accurate as possible, it is being made using traditional carpentry tools and techniques. The scale is 1 to 5, a fifth of the original size. Engineers have built it on a shake table to simulate earthquake forces, calibrated to the size and weight of the scale model. The scale model is based on the traditional timber frame core, as used at the Palace of Longevity and Health.
What you immediately notice is this huge golden roof that curves outwards away from the building in a way that you just don't see in European architecture. Looking up here, what we have is these elegantly coloured crossbeams decorated with imperial dragons and phoenixes. And they're there to support these huge red columns that bear the structural load of that massive roof.
These beams and columns are the structural core of all the Forbidden City's buildings.
If you look up here, in between the crossbeams and the roof, underneath that mesh, there's these flower-shaped brackets, and they're called dogong.
A dogong is a complex bracket that supports the huge roof. At first glance, it looks like an elaborate decorative feature. But the unique design is the structural key to every Forbidden City building.
Dogong brackets are extremely versatile. They've been used throughout East Asian architecture for literally thousands of years. We see examples of them used in Buddhist temples, palatial architecture, down to simple houses.
Dogong date back at least 2,000 years, but they reached their zenith in the Forbidden City. Carpenter Richard Weiborg finds it's easy to take one apart, but harder to assemble.
Now, after taking a deep breath, we'll try and put this back together again.
And amazingly, there are no nails or glue, nothing holding it together other than sheer ingenuity.
You can see this isn't, even for somebody who's done it a few times, it's complicated. One piece goes in the front here. There you have it, a bracket set. So you can see it's a little bit flexible. It's very strong. Pressing down, it can take a tremendous amount of weight. It ties together with other parts of the building and is a beautiful, creative feature of Chinese architecture.
The complicated dogong brackets extend to the exterior to support the eaves as well as the roof. They sit on the large beams supported by the tall columns. But the columns are not founded in the earth and are freestanding. All these structural parts bear the roof's immense weight for a large hall that is 1,800 tons. Engineers highlight areas that are vulnerable during the most powerful quakes. The Earth's movement could snap the columns, fracture the beams or joints, or topple the roof. It seems a tremor would be catastrophic. So how does it survive quakes? Now, in a series of unique tests, the Forbidden City seismologist Dr. Zhou will subject the scale model to a series of simulated quakes to discover how the Forbidden City's intricate parts react and see what magnitude of quake they can survive. It's test day.
Wow, the roof is so big. It's amazing.
是的，这是我们国家非常传统的、正宗的传统木构古建。我们也是头一次进行这种古建筑模型的地震实验。
Dr. Zhou is joined by Richard Weiborg. The shake table will replicate the energy of quakes in increasing orders of magnitude. How strong a quake will it take to bring down the structure?
工况一开始。
An earthquake's strength is defined by its magnitude, the amount of energy released. Each tremor lasts 30 seconds. As the magnitude rises, 4, 4.5, then 5. These are massive increases. A magnitude 5 has 10 times the energy of a 4. It begins to strain the dogong.
Maybe we'll take one step back.
对，我们担心它会出现一些想不到的情况。
Magnitude 7.5 is over 1,000 times stronger than the initial test quake of 4.
There it goes. That was pretty exciting.
我们可以看到这个墙体完全倒塌了。
Yes.
但是这个中国古建筑的木构架它依然耸立。
This shows that the brick walls have no structural role, and the timber frame does all the work. But how long can the frame resist the force of nature?
So a 9.0, this is like a very, very big earthquake.
柱顶石开始产生错动。
The test now moves beyond magnitude 9.5, the largest recorded quake in history. The equivalent energy to well over 2 billion tons of TNT.
10.1级地震开始。 工况事务结束。
We wanted to break this building and it wouldn't break. So wonderful test.
When Dr. Joe and Richard examine the model, they find clues to how it survived the quakes.
这个红线呢，是这个地震前柱子的位置。我们可以发现呢，发生地震后呢，柱子啊移到了这里。
This explains why the columns are not founded deep into the stone bases. If they were, they could only break if overwhelmed by the energy of the quake. By being left free to move, they ride out the earthquake.
所以呢，这个柱子呢，它并没有产生破坏。
The design secret can be summarized in one word: flexibility. The wooden parts work both as individual units and together.
The dogong acts like a shock absorber in a car, and there's both friction and rotation that absorbs the energy from the earthquake.
The test also explains the effect of the heavy roof. It acts as a counterweight, pushing down so the flexible parts can ride the quake.
What was most surprising to me was how much the building could move, how flexible it was. Nothing was damaged, and it could survive a 10.1 earthquake. This is a fabulous proof of the genius of Chinese traditional architecture.
It has allowed the Forbidden City to survive one great force of nature. But there was one enemy it couldn't resist forever. Not earthquakes, but fire. For nearly 600 years, Beijing's vast Forbidden City has suffered from a recurring threat: fire. Caused by accidents or lightning strikes. The grand wooden hall of Supreme Harmony has burned down numerous times.
It's actually been rebuilt 7 times, and each time it gets rebuilt. It gets rebuilt with the technology of the day.
Rebuilding and restoring the Forbidden City remains an ongoing task. Today, work is being carried out on the gates, courtyards, walls, and ceilings. In the Gate of Heavenly Purity, many of the precious golden tiles have lost their shine. Da Bing is a master craftsman from the Department of Restoration Skills at the Forbidden City.
就是咱们要修复这天花，这天花坏的比较多了，修第那什么，修第3一块天花，像那种取下来，取了以后咱们就那什么，咱就恢复。行，那咱们走吧，回去准备下一个地方。
The Forbidden City has thousands of these gold leaf tiles, but the gold has faded or eroded. Restoration is a delicate process. Each tile takes 2 weeks. A piece of paper and black chalk is used to copy the intricate tile pattern.
这是行了，这就行了，这一步就完了。
it's essential the design is exactly the same as the original. This five-clawed dragon signifies the emperor, reserved only for him.
有两个是冲前的，有两个冲后的，一个是露，爪子背，有露背边的，有露是爪子心儿的。
Once the tile has been copied and painted, it is ready to be brushed with the precious gold leaf. Pure gold is melted and mixed with bronze that adds a red sheen. The alloy is still 98% pure gold. Today, machines press it and press it. In Ming times, workers would hammer it until it was as thin as 1/500th the diameter of a hair. It is cut up and carefully placed between sheets of bamboo paper. The Forbidden City's restoration needs over 10 million pieces. After days of work, the master craftsman is ready to apply the gold leaf.
完了要给它轻轻的一按，有没贴到的这儿给它揉一下，从下往上。
Finally, it's impressive enough for the emperor himself. The restoration work is still unveiling new surprises. Hidden beneath centuries of dust, researchers have uncovered rare evidence of the original Ming decorations in the Hall of Mental Cultivation's loft.
这种呢彩画呢，就是非常的好看。它常年呢，因为它密闭在这个建筑的里头，就是不受那个外界环境的影响和光照的影响，所以它上百年了，都一直保存得特别好。
Over 500 years old, this is an extremely unusual find. It is classic Ming Dynasty artwork with unique flower blooms, petals, and an exquisite attention to detail.
在明代彩画呢，它一般情况下呢，它就是主要是这个座建筑呢建成了以后，最后一道的工序，也就是上梁，它有一种上梁大吉的作用。皇帝呢可能就是把这座建筑呢就是建成了，或者举行一个仪式啊。一般的情况下呢，它这个彩画呢会画得比较庄重啊，比较那个华丽。
From the gorgeous paintwork and brilliant gold leaf, to the giant wooden columns and monumental marble staircases, the Forbidden City was the ultimate expression of Yongl's ambition and power. But his enjoyment of his pleasure palace was short-lived. In 1424, just 4 years after its completion, the emperor died, whilst on campaign.
In his last years, he still was determined, against opposition of his officials, to go out and fight the wars. And he was brought here to be buried in great pomp and circumstance.
Yongle was laid to rest at this tranquil mountainside near Beijing. This magnificent hall remains as he built it. It stands as a symbol of Ming architectural genius and the 22-year reign in which he changed China forever.
The legacy of Yongle, on the one hand, is the physical legacy, the great Forbidden City that we see today. But on the other hand, it was his establishment of the foundations of the empire that has survived down to this day.
For nearly 500 years after Yongle's death, Just 23 other emperors ruled China from the Forbidden City. Until the last emperor, the boy Puyi, abdicated in 1912 during a nationalist revolution. He ended his days tending the palace gardens. In 1925, a palace once forbidden to all opened its doors to the public. The epic edifice had devoured goods from the vast Ming Empire and beyond. Had demanded extraordinary logistics on land, water, and ice. Had cost countless lives, but became medieval China's greatest creation.
More for tomorrow, unearthing more Chinese history following on from the first discovery in 1974. The secrets of the Terracotta Warriors takes us even deeper tomorrow night at 9. Back to For Tomorrow with house builders making record profits. Why are so few affordable homes available? Secrets of Britain's new homes. Channel 4 Dispatches investigates at 8. The Handmaid's Tale is next.